When you're hired as a cinematographer, how many times will you read the screenplay for the film you're going to work on?
Well, as I say, in my early career, not enough times, you know. Now, the only time that you really get to read a screenplay is the first time you read it. And I think that goes for being a director or you know, helping somebody else. You only get one fresh read, so you're only seeing the movie continuously once to be surprised by anything that goes on. So that initial time that you read the script is the most important, and it should be without a break. You should never, I think my acting teacher, Nina Foch, told me that whenever you get a script, all the way through, if you don't have enough time that you can sit down and read the whole thing, you shouldn't start it. So I think that's initially that. The thing is that after the third time that you read it, then now it's starting to become really technical, because you're starting to see the script in terms of the schedule, in terms of the locations where you're going to do it. So at some point, the breakdown becomes the Bible that you're working off more than the script. So there's a flow into, you know, that first fresh read, which is the most important, to going into the schedule and the breakdown, and seeing what it's going to take to physically get the production done, you know.
Why did Nina, your acting teacher, recommend that you, if you're going to read the script, you do it in one full sitting, that you don't take breaks, that you're not sending an email, texting?
I think, you know, when you sit in a cinema and you watch the movie, that's how you're going to experience it. And very often if you stop in a script and you pick it up, you'll say, oh, there must have been a day break in there. And you say, oh no, the script happens over 24 hours. You know? So, you know, I think it messes with your sense of time that you're reading it. And it also takes away from the, you know, the script is going to be performed in 1 hour and a half, 2 hour piece. And that's how you should experience it. And experience it the first time, because you're never going to get that first read ever again. And that's why if I'm writing something and I want to get a reaction from somebody, I'll be very careful about who I show it to at what stage. So I might be getting pretty close to something, and I've got to write a friend that knows how to read something in a rougher state, and I might show it to them. But if I want to get I'll never be able to, I won't be able to use him again, because next time he reads it, he won't be reading it for the first time. So he'll have a different reaction. Now, it doesn't mean that the feedback won't be useful, but it'll never be that first fresh read, which I think is so important, you know.
How many acting classes have you taken?
I don't know. I did a whole session with Nina Foch. I've done some commercial acting classes, which were very interesting, because commercial storytelling is like, you know, 1.3 seconds is the units of time that you're working on a little particular thing, and the production value that you can put into that very short amount of time. It's a very, very interesting discipline. And I think from there, so I think 3 or 4 different acting classes. I took some improv classes, and then I kind of went into more, I started directing with more different people, which I'm headed more there than I am to acting, so, you know.
And where was this?
The
classes with Nina Foch?
They were in a rehearsal studio above a bike shop on Melrose Avenue in Hollywood. You know, she had a nice little class there. You know.
Do you have an internal checklist when you're reading a script before a film?
As a director?
As a cinematographer?
As a cinematographer. No, I try to read the script without thinking about anything and just experience the script. Now, as I say, in the technical process later on, then the stuff. But basically, by that time, I'm usually working off the location list and the breakdown, whether it's day or night, and you know, it becomes a much more technical process. But when I first read the script, I try to be the audience and just sit back and enjoy it, you know.
So then, are there certain things that you know within each scene you have to sort of tick off in your own mind? Like a checklist broken down to each scene? Once you've gotten through the actual sitting down, reading the script as like the audience would experience it, now there's like a list of requirements for each scene, technically, that you're checking off?
No, I don't really work that way. You know, I have to say that, you know, people draw storyboards, they do little diagrams of how they want it to, you know, they do little thumbnails, but until you get the actors onto the set and they block the scene, because it's fine. Oh, well, in the storyboard, you're over here, and, you know, De Niro is saying, no, I'm not standing over here, I'm going to be right here, you know. So the blocking of the scene that to me is when the scene comes alive and when my work can really start. Because without seeing where the actors are going to be, you know, lighting is very actor specific. You know, you can light generally, but if you want to do something very moody and special, you really need to see where they're going to be working. And until you get onto that set and see where that is, and that's not until the director first puts a scene together, you know, and working with directors, I would say 2/3 of them don't know how they're going to block it before they get the actors onto the set. Others have very specific ideas, well, we're going to do it over here, and, you know. But the blocking process is where the day's work begins for me, you know. And checklists, not really. That's a little too mechanical. You know, there are some shoots that are so tight that I have to order equipment that I need for that day, just specifically for that one shot, and you've got to do that. But, you know, it's if you're making a movie, you don't want to say, oh, well, we don't have any dolly shots today, so we're not going to rent a dolly. You know, there are some things that are going to be part of your package and you're going to have, and they become the repertoire that you use to be creative and spontaneous. But then there are other times when, you know, equipment is going to be so expensive or the budget's so tight that you're going to have to say, I'm going to use this on this day, and then you get very shot specific about what kind of equipment you're going to use in a certain place and what kind of lighting equipment you're going to use in a certain place.
So then how did storyboards weave their way into seeming like it's a normal part of production? Is it just for some people? Is it a preference?
Well, I think it helps, storyboards help non-visual directors visualize what they're going to do. But really the birth of storyboards and their greatest use to me is in visual effects sequences, because then you're dealing with a discipline that's so specific to what's going to be in that particular shot and how the sequence is going to work, because there are so many, you know, you can't shoot visual effects like documentary, and you know, it has to be very specific. And at that time, storyboards become the tool to do that. Now, when you do a special effects sequence in a medium to large budget movie now, you have a previs department, and storyboards have become now fully animated sequences that are done ahead of time, and then you're kind of like executing an engineered movie. in terms of in terms of what you're going to need to bring to a particular frame and shoot it a particular way to get the movie made, you know. So a lot of directors don't really like that process because their freedom of blocking a scene kind of goes away. So I'm glad to say that in visual effects now, there are a lot of tools that are being developed, like virtual camera systems, which are putting that creativity back in the director's hands about being able to be much more spontaneous about how things are going to be done. I saw something about Rogue One recently, and their animated battle sequence is actually shot by the director with a handheld virtual camera. So he was able to use that to be very creative and spontaneous about the way he covered like a fully animated battle sequence.
Do you remember where you were when you learned of Stanley Kubrick's passing, and how did it make you look at the life of a career?
Well, it was kind of full circle with Stanley because I hadn't seen Doug Trumbull for many years, and I happened to be working in his studio in the Berkshires the day that I heard that Stanley died. And I was working on a very kind of high-tech virtual set that combined puppetry with CG images. So that the puppets were shot with a virtual camera, and wherever the camera was driving a computer which showed you where you were in this three-dimensional reality. So it was a brand new technology that Doug had kind of pioneered. And I was up there seeing him, and we both got the news together. So it was very sad. So Doug then left and went to the funeral, but I was on this job, so I was not able to do the same thing. So.
Sure. Did it make you look at all great careers have some pushback, or, you know, like you can't be an auteur without having extreme criticism in one direction or the other? That's part of the journey that's going to happen?
Oh, yes, I think so. That goes so much with the territory of being an artist, you know, is that they're going to be the haters and they're going to be the lovers, you know. So, but I had wondered at the time, because it was so close to the end of Eyed Wide Shut, that I didn't know whether he'd actually finished the picture or not, because it hadn't been released yet when he died, and it wasn't going to be for a little while, so I wondered whether he had actually finished the film, but I believe he had, and maybe that was the sense of completion that he did, which would have been a lot better than dying in the middle of a project, you know. So that was, yeah, I felt good. I felt a life well lived, you know.